How'd you like to listen to .NET Rocks with no ads? Easy. Become a patron. For just $5 a month, you get access to a private RSS feed where all the shows have no ads. $20 a month will get you that and a special .NET Rocks patron mug. Sign up now at patreon.netrocks.com.
Hey, Carl and Richard here with your 2024 NDC schedule.
We'll be at as many NDC conferences as possible this year, and you should consider attending no matter what. The Copenhagen Developers Festival happens August 26th through the 30th. Early bird discount ends April 26th. Tickets at cphdevfest.com.
NDC Porto is happening October 14th through the 18th. The early bird discount ends June 14th. Tickets at ndcporto.com.
And we'll see you there, we hope.
Hey, guess what? It's .NET Rocks live from Build. Okay, not live from Build, but we're at Build. I'm Carl Franklin.
And I'm Richard Campbell.
Beth Massi is here with us. We're going to be talking to her in a minute. But first, the weather report from Seattle. It's gray, cloudy.
Situation normal. Welcome to the Pacific Northwest.
Spots of rain.
Yes, it's mild. It's very mild.
The sun did come out for a brief moment yesterday.
Yeah, for a little while.
Yeah, and then it's like, just kidding.
Yeah. Listen, we value when the sun does show up, we go outside.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't happen very much.
Right. Anyway, let's jump right into my Better Know a framework.
Awesome.
Roll the crazy music.
All right, dude, what do you got?
Well, this is a nod to how long the three of us have been in this profession.
Oh, my goodness.
Some of you remember Vim?
Oh, sure. Yeah, the editor.
Yeah, the editor. Well, now there's NeoVim. NeoVim.io.
Is it the one?
It's the new Vim. Yeah, the one, right. Hyper extensible Vim-based text editor.
Oh, no.
So the API is first class, discoverable, version, documented, message pack, structured communication, enables extensions in any language, remote plugins, run as co-processes safely and asynchronously. And the list goes on and on. Is this like, congratulations on making the ultimate console-based text editor.
Wow.
They really went nuts.
Yeah.
Right? With all the features.
Well,
yeah.
Editors when VS Code came along and sort of said, here you go, here, have an editor.
Yeah.
Works everywhere. So I think and it made a difference. Like, a good editor does make a difference.
And then, it's well received.
Well, the bigger thing here is the book, Exiting Vim, right? Like that's a real thing.
Yeah.
Was it :WQ?
Yeah.
Something like that.
I don't know. It brought back trying to use Vim on, so I think it was Don Box who was like, Vim, that's what I use. And I tried it and I'm like, reminds me of WordPerfect.
Yeah.
In the 90s.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
That's so funny.
All right.
I love it.
That's what I got.
Okay.
If you're interested, go for it. Who's talking to us today, Rich?
Grabbed a Common Hoffer Show 1833, the one we did back in February of 23 when we were in Sweden, at Sweathug in Stockholm. And we grabbed Ortenau and Maddie, the two troublemakers of Maui, to talk about the state of Maui, because, of course, things have been moving pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And I think that was the first time we ever talked about Blazor Hybrid.
Yeah.
Right? And I think we're probably going to go there today, too. So it only made sense. And Rob Garner had this comment, admittedly from a year ago. He says, I can confirm that, yes, you can put a MAUI and Blazor WASM app in the same solution and share controls in a Razor class library. Then you can deploy to pretty much everything except maybe Xbox. It should be able to deploy
I'm
to
okay
Xbox.
with that.
It's becoming my default way of building applications. You can never be sure you won't want that web app to include a phone app later down the line.
Right.
So, just not blocking your options. If I go this way, then whatever happens later, I can make that for other devices really easy.
This is great. He said it all. We don't even have to interview Beth.
Right.
It's like,
We're
use it.
good.
Don't use XAML. Use Blazor.
Yeah.
And end of story.
Thanks for playing.
Phasers on stun, Kirk out.
Yeah. We come in peace. Shoot to kill.
You can laugh, Beth. We're sitting right here.
I am laughing.
Oh, Rob, thanks so much for your comment. It's the last day of build. We're all a little silly at this point.
Yeah.
So thanks again for your comment, and a copy of Music to Go By is on its way to you. And if you'd like a copy of Music to Go By, write a comment on the website at .netrocks.com or on the Facebooks. We publish every show there, and if you comment there and I read it on the show, we'll send you a copy of Music to Go By.
Yep. And if you you can follow us on X.
You can.
Twitter. It used to be Twitter. X Twitter. That's what we'll call it because it used to be Twitter. You can follow us on X Twitter. We've been there for a long time. But the cool kids are hanging out on Mastodon. I'm at Carl Franklin at techhub.social.
And I'm Rich Campbell at mastodon.social.
And of course, you can get in touch with me millions of ways by going to carlfranklin.com. Okay, let's bring back our good friend, Beth Massi. She's been on the show several times. I don't have the number in front of me, but Richard probably will look it up by the time I'm done interviewing her or reading her bio. Beth is a product manager on the .NET MAUI team at Microsoft and is responsible for making native device and hybrid web development in Visual Studio a delightful experience. Formerly the marketing director and community manager for .NET, as well as serving on the board of directors for the .NET Foundation, she has spent her career helping .NET developers be successful. Boy, ain't that the truth.
Yeah.
Yep.
Welcome back, Beth.
Thank you, guys.
7th visit to .NET Rocks. But hey, first, most importantly, how's FoxPro doing?
I still talk about FoxPro at work sometimes because I do a lot of querying with Cousteau, and so that's taught me a lot. Relational database theory, you never forget it.
Yeah, it's always there, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, I was always a Clipper guy when you were Fox.
I started in Clipper.
Yeah, back in the day.
DBase.
Yeah, legit. DBase 2 on the Apple II with the Z80 Zlog board plugged into it.
So now that we've established we're all the same age.
Yeah.
With Vim.
Very old. With Vim, yeah.
Emacs, I think, was Don Box's favorite text editor.
Oh, man.
Wow. Okay, so somebody just asked me this at Mary Jo's thing, right? We were sitting talking to some geeks, and somebody said, I see that you're a proponent of using Blazor and MAUI when you're building MAUI apps. What do you think of using XAML? And I said, don't.
I have to admit, I'm in that camp too. I've just never really grokked XAML ever.
Yeah.
I think more importantly is that Microsoft has to do everything in XAML and make it work everywhere that CSS works now and works well across all platforms because the market made it that way, over many years.
Right.
And so they have to do all that themselves.
It's a powerful language if you grok it, right?
Yep.
But just I had never really had
Yeah.
The patience, I think, for it.
Well, I did some classes in it, of course, and classes, I mean teaching. And there was a situation where I think it was a list view or whatever the Xamarin Forms come MAUI version of that is. And when you have these nested things and blocks and stuff, it just fell down on iOS. Worked great on Android, fell down on iOS. And that's where it dawned on me. It's like, this is a big challenge Microsoft has to make this work everywhere, whereas, CSS is done.
That's correct. And, I'm a big proponent of Blazor Hybrid, obviously. Yeah. Actually, MAUI Hybrid, I'm going to talk to you guys about, some things we're going to do for .NET 9 that's not Blazor only. So,
interesting.
Yeah.
So MAUI hybrid, full stop, like hybrid with other things,
correct.
not just Blazor.
Correct.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Correct. With other JavaScript frameworks, we're going to bring through.
Yeah, I just for a minute there, I thought you were saying good things about CSS, and I'm like, who are you? What did you do with Carl Franklin? That's pretty strange.
Well, I don't do great things with CSS, but there's a lot of people that do, and it's easy to find them. So
that's it.
Yeah.
And the simple things that I wanted to do, I could do very easily with Blazor and CSS.
And there's just so much. There's so much. Do a search and find exactly what you need.
Ask ChatGPT.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, actually, we're doing a lot of cool stuff with Copilot too, and MAUI. So a lot of tool. I'm on the tooling side too, so we got a lot of cool tools working.
Like what does it mean to have a cool stuff in Copilot for MAUI?
So, like, imagine asking Copilot to just design your application
Right.
and write the XAML for you, right?
Mhm.
So, like, actually, that in that case, then I'm like,
You
okay, I
love
don't
XAML
need to
when
actually
you don't have to write it.
right, exactly. You
Well,
know?
unless the XAML is fundamentally broken.
Right, and
which
so
was
that's
the
what we
case
have to
that I
do. We have to
discovered.
train the Copilot to understand the MAUI flavor of XAML,
Yeah,
right? Because it's a
right.
different flavor.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I'm a big fan. Anytime that I'm creating a MAUI app now, I'm using Blazor because I've been doing this now since Blazor came out.
Right.
And arguably, I wasn't the best ASP.NET web forms developer when it came to design. I just made things work. You know? But I really got into it at Blazor.
Yeah, and I mean, we're making it like a lot simpler to just build apps that allow you to reuse your code across the web, Blazor web and MAUI at the same time. So next month we'll release next month in .NET 9 Preview 5, we'll release a solution template that allows you to just start a project and sets up all the glue for you so that you have a Razor class library. You can put all your UI, any shared interfaces you're using to do the functionality of that UI.
Yeah.
Actually, that's my demo here at Build. I have a little demo theater, kind of thing. And it's like a 12-minute demo. And and I show how to, you can even like multi-target the Razor class library so you can turn on and off UI depending on the platform. The only challenge you have there is you have different hosting models, that you kind of have to have different implementations of things.
Isn't that what this comes down to in general, full stop, right? Is whether you want to be on a mobile device, whether you want to be on as a web page or you want to be as a desktop app, it's just a hosting model. Like you're trying to write one set of code that all these models can pick up and make a reasonable looking client in that form factor.
Well, MAUI does a lot of that abstraction for you, and when you're using Blazor's the UI, you're really but you're still using MAUI, like the non-visual parts of MAUI, right? So it does eliminate a lot of the code that you would have to write for each of the platforms. That's the whole point of MAUI.
However, if you start with MAUI and you take advantage of the platform APIs, don't expect to be able to publish that on the web.
Right.
Because you don't have those things there. But if you build it for the web, and then that will move, obviously, with JavaScript interop and all that stuff.
And you can mix and match. You can do native and web technique.
That's a really good, important point.
Yeah.
That you don't have to choose one thing for the whole application.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah, you can mix and match.
Well, I'm thinking about Rob's comment too about it sounds like he's actually building a web app or a desktop app, and he's just hedging his bets that he might need to build a phone app.
Yeah.
Because my instincts have always been that
Mobile first.
you're using MAUI because you need a phone app.
Yeah.
And then it's like, I'd also like a web app and a desktop app. And I'd argue that was the weak part. Right? That it was really good at building one code base for both iOS and Android. And then the web app was okay. And the desktop app was,
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you just want the store distribution and reach, so like you instead of, having to advertise a URL, sometimes it's easier just to get into the stores and have people like install it.
Geez, that's what PWAs are for, man. Here's your icon. Knock yourself out.
Yeah. That too.
That must be a common question for you. Should I just do a Blazor PWA or should I make a MAUI app?
It just depends on what you want. I mean, some things are just really hard or impossible to do in web only. So you do need a native shell, or you need a native like controls, or you need a native thing. You need to access the file system, and you need to do, I don't know. Yeah. The web is pretty powerful, I have to admit. You know what I mean? These days you can do almost anything, but some things are just hard.
And check out that deployment model, right? Like that's
like local storage on a Blazor WebAssembly app.
It's a pain. Yeah. Therein lies. And this is the wrestling match I have these days when I get to wear my, senior architect's hat and sysadmin hat. It's like, really? You want me to deploy software again? Like, it's hard to justify a desktop client app because it puts a lot of costs on.
Some apps have to be like so rich though, and so like the experiences have to be so on, or you just need the form factor.
Being a MAUI app then, because that when I talk about ultra rich desktop apps, it's straight WPF these days.
Yeah, but if you want to target Mac and Windows and don't have like the two teams to do that,
that's the win, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You can get. Yeah, because and I'm not going to argue with you on that. The number of Macs in the workplace these days, it's big. Yeah, it's not.
Or if you're building a
1 or
consumer
2%.
app, you gotta have that reach.
Clients.
Yeah.
Okay, I am persuaded.
Well, what are the downsides, right? we talked about some of them, but, why would you, let's just stick with XAML and Blazor.
Because I've only made an aesthetic argument here. I have not talked about a feature problem.
Yeah. Why would you, aside from what I mentioned with XAML, if you run into problems, is there any benefit of using XAML over Blazor?
Well, so, some argue that native experiences are the best experiences. And so depending on your application, you may, especially if it's a consumer application and you're betting on beautiful, deep, rich experiences that you want the Android app to look like Android and feel like Android. You want iOS to look and feel like. Yeah. With Blazor, everything looks the same because you're just using the platform WebView to render the UI.
More memory.
Well,
because you have to load the edge control.
A little more memory, yeah. And I mean, then you're doing CSS tricks, right? Yeah. Like Ionic does. They have a really nice, nice styling depending on what platform you're on, and it really does kind of look like the native app.
Yeah. Because I can't make that argument for corporate apps. They want them all the same.
Yeah, and some people want that, right? Yeah. So MAUI doesn't draw controls. They are the native control. So that's you have two options, right? There.
That's the strength.
Yeah, there's a strength there.
That's a very good point. And do you think that people still want to have an iOS-looking app versus an Android-looking app, or do they just want an app that works?
Most line of business, large enterprises, those types of apps, probably not. They don't care.
I think it's when you go, it's a retail app.
Yeah, when it's consumer apps.
But there's a lot less of those out there than there are business apps, I think.
It depends what the company doing, right? You're in the banking business and you want it's something for your customers.
Yeah.
At that point, you might have enough resources that'll just go fully native and just have multiple code bases.
I just don't know that that's worthwhile. One of the things I've talked to teams where they have native developers for both stacks.
Right.
And one of the things they really focus on is releasing simultaneously.
Right.
Because their customers get really angry when an iOS feature shows up before an Android feature.
Yeah.
And so, the nice thing about the common code base is you're going to release together. Right. Although now it's down to even the store delays are a problem.
Yeah. You never know when the store is going to green light you.
It's a week. It's 2 weeks. You just don't know. Right.
You said that, Ionic does some CSS tricks to make the platform look more platformy. Are there other things that you would recommend that we can use in MAUI Blazor hybrid apps to...
So right now we're kind of playing with Fluent right now. So the Fluent, but a lot of commercial components are really powerful too, I personally, I talk to more customers that are, building line of business enterprise and they are not as concerned with that. Right. But there's a ton of library, CSS is so, everywhere. Yeah. And you can do whatever you can do on the web, you can do in the WebView. Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love Fluent UI, but for a long time it was really a WinUI thing, right? First and foremost. Yeah. And then, you could kind of do it with WPF, but it's better now.
Yeah. There's the Fluent UI maintainer. It's because open source has examples for Blazor, and we're one of our engineers is working on one for hybrid, and so there's
controls for React, for iOS, for Android, for Mac OS, it's legit.
Yeah, and that's what's kind of cool because we're talking also to a lot of customers that have .NET customers that already have major JavaScript framework investments like React or Vue or Angular, right? Mm-hmm. Because before Blazor, that's kind of what we had to do, right? ASP.NET was really just the back end, right? Yeah, and so what we want to do is we want to be able for them to use those frameworks also in MAUI. So we're building a hybrid WebView control. Right. So like the Blazor WebView control that's in MAUI today, this will just be a hybrid WebView that'll allow you to communicate between JavaScript and C#, right?
Right.
So that'll be an option for folks that, sometimes you have third-party components that you want to pull in and they don't offer a .NET library. Right. But they have a JavaScript thing, so you can go ahead and pull that in.
I would be remiss if I didn't bring up Blaze Icons. BlazeIcons.com, I already put it in as a link. Basically, this is a Blazor component where multiple Blazor components that you can pick whatever icon set you want. Bootstrap, Dev Icon, Fluent UI Filled, Font Awesome, regular and solid, Google Material, round, sharp, filled, outline, solid, whatever. Two-tone ion icons, Lucid, and material design icons. So they basically wrap them all up.
Awesome.
You pick which one you want, and then you use a Blazor component to show the icon.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's a strong community around.
No kidding. Yeah.
Like it's not just .NET. This is like the whole JavaScript and HTML community, right? Like it's big.
Boy, you're really running out of excuses to make an ugly web page, aren't you?
Yeah. Because you can just drop things in and
there's just no reason.
Yeah.
Here they are. Just drop them in and go.
Yeah.
You don't have to think that much.
As a developer who doesn't like to design anything, it's pretty nice.
Well, to me, it also is, and don't impair the designer when they do show up and want to apply a design to it. Right. So it's like
they can use tools that they're really happy with, like Figma or whatever, and give you that design.
Yeah.
It's
it's always a question of, is it both ways? Like if I've gone down a path building something, then the designer appears. Like, have I impaired them with what I've done so
it can.
far?
Yeah.
Right. I've certainly had that experience.
Right.
So it's like, I'm stuck. I put Bootstrap in. What more do you want?
Right. And now you got to go through the whole app and change your CSS.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. It's an interesting space to be in, to just think through all of these variations of, what do you need? Call back to Rob. I'm building a desktop app, but I might need a phone, so I'm going to stay in this library.
Yeah.
Or I'm building phone apps, but some people want the web.
Yeah, and we're also building a lot of tools to help you quickly build some of these types of things. So like MAUI is, we got the MAUI extension for VS Code, right? It's in pre-release. It's eminently going to GA. We know, we've got, some really, I think we've got some really cool tooling coming in just Visual Studio proper. I'm more of a Visual Studio user myself. And I see a lot of customers, enterprise customers, still use Visual Studio. And so we are investing a lot in the tooling there too. Some cool things I think, we'd like to do, in the .NET 9 timeframe, in Visual Studio, just to make kind of, working with hybrid apps a little bit more delightful, actually having a live preview that will, allow you to kind of select into the web view itself and get at the Razor components. We're looking at that if that's possible to do. I think that would really help kind of speed up, just investigating where the Razor components are and the layouts and that sort of thing, so that you don't necessarily have to look at the rendered content, on once you go into the F12 developer tools in Edge or Chrome or whatever, you're kind of already looking at the rendered page. You're not looking at the components that created it, right? So we're trying to figure out how to make that experience better too. So
it's all good news.
Yeah.
One of the announcements that happened this week in Build was the Snapdragon machines. They're focusing on that being Copilot PC, but it's like, that's Windows on ARM. Yeah.
Again. Yeah.
It's back. And
cool.
And somebody asked me, are we going to make a .NET Rocks about this? I'm like, there's nothing to say. It's just going to work. I don't even think you're going to need to recompile.
Right. Use it. Okay, we're done.
Yeah, thanks for playing. Yeah.
I mean, that's what we did a lot of work in Visual Studio to get Visual Studio on ARM. If you're running Visual Studio, I have an app, a Mac M1, and I'm running Parallels, and that's an ARM, base. So,
But
you're doing it through emulation that way.
Yeah.
Although the M1's so flipping fast, what do you care?
Right. It is really fast. And I see a lot of, users using a Mac that way, because you can build for all of the platforms at once, with one machine.
It tends to be your all versatile hub.
Yeah, you still need Parallels, but then you can pair to your own Mac and, use the emulators and and you have your Android emulators, you have your simulators for, through Xcode there.
Yeah.
You just pair that way. So I see some people doing that, not a ton. We're making the pair to Mac experience hopefully better, so that when you pair to the Mac, you actually pair to the Mac Catalyst and the desktop too.
Right.
I basically use GitHub as my thing, right?
Okay.
I push it to GitHub, I go over to my Mac, I pull it down, and I run it.
There you go.
Yeah. It just works great.
Yeah.
But it also speaks to the reality of it's two machines, right?
Yeah.
I think
that's two platforms, two machines.
Yeah.
Are you using the extension for VS Code on your Mac?
I don't use VS Code.
Okay.
So
your studio
I
all
only
the way.
use VS Code when I need to for a demo or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's getting a lot better.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. I mean, like, you like, don't even, like, I think Wendy was showing kind of in the context of Aspire yesterday, but there's a lot of just like, now I don't need to know like all the commands. I can like actually click a button to create a new project, you know. So if you're a Visual Studio user, and you want to like, you know, build a MAUI app on your Mac, like that's kind of the path you're going to need to go.
Yeah, because Visual Studio for the Mac is no more.
Yeah, it'll be out of support in August.
Yeah. Yep. I have used Visual Studio Code to do things like there's easy ways to deploy a static web app, you know, and you can create the project and do everything right on GitHub and pull it down and press a button in Visual Studio Code and it's running.
That's the idea, is to make sure that the solution and the projects are all compatible. Yep.
I love that though.
Yeah.
That's all good stuff.
Yeah. No, it's impressive. And the DevKit in VS Code really took, you know, now you forget that Studio's job is also a project manager, right? And then, but DevKit really brought that to code now that
the Solution Explorer experience is there.
Yeah.
Well, and I certainly talked to teams where they've got a set of devs who are only in code, right? Mostly web dev. And so they just weren't able to see a lot of the project at the time. They didn't even think in the terms of the project.
Right.
But then DevKit came along. That was last year now, I think.
Yeah, it did. It released last year.
Yeah, and so suddenly they're like, oh, there's a whole bunch of other stuff going on. It's like, welcome to the project. Yeah. You actually have a view of what's going on in this.
Right. It just makes the I don't know, the context switch between Visual Studio and VS Code so much easier, because you're like, here's my project. Here's my solution.
Yeah, no, it's a good stuff.
Here's my debugger. You know, here's hot reload. They've added all of that, so it's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, just makes me wonder how long Studio has. You know,
I think it has a long future. Man. I mean, honestly, there are so many more tools that I think are critical. Personally, like hot reload is awesome, but like if you don't have like that live, you know, view of your app, it's kind of just.
It's warm reload.
It's warm. It's like, right. And like I said, like, you know, we're just trying to make the tooling experience a little bit more richer, I guess, and in Visual Studio, as that's kind of where traditionally where everything really is. And, you know, the value of Visual Studio is a lot of in that kind of tooling.
When it's not like you guys don't push out an update to Visual Studio, like, every month?
Yeah, we're monthly. We're monthly release. I mean, VS Code is weekly pre-release. Visual Studio proper is monthly.
As we're recording this, it's 1710, right?
1711 P1 released this week, and then 1710 GA'd this week.
So 1710 is GA now, but 1711 is underway. Like it is a continuously updated product.
Yeah, and as a product manager who's, you know, trying to get stuff in the SDK, trying to get stuff in, you know, DevKit, VS Code extension or MAUI extension, is trying to get stuff like working across all of these trains. Yeah, it's I've been on the team for 2 years and I still don't know which one's which sometimes. But there's multiple wiki pages to go look at schedules and things like that.
And not to be a heretic, but it's like, why would we want a new version of Visual Studio? When it's continuously updated, we kind of know where things are. We just got the new Copilot interface in, like
like a Visual Studio 2025 or whatever.
What would we
like a major version?
Yeah, what would that even do?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know who like. I know who probably makes the decision, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's not us.
When it's not me that makes that decision. Like when a major version releases.
When do you call a major version, and for what?
Yeah, right.
Because it's disruptive too, right? Like.
Yeah, I mean, but usually think about your own software. When you do a major version upgrade, there is something major.
You're doing breaking changes, right? That's the usual thing. And hey, who wants breaking changes?
Yeah, or you add some very significant feature to it or something like that, right?
Copilot's pretty significant.
Yeah.
Hey, we got to break for a moment for this very important message. And we're back. It's .NET Rocks. I'm Richard Campbell. That's Carl Franklin.
Hey.
Hanging with our friend Beth Massi.
Hey.
And hey, if you're not in love with the ads that we're getting these days, because we've been working hard to try and get better ads, but, you know, there's limits to the systems, I'm afraid, and we're still working our way at it. There is another option, and that is to become a patron on Patreon. Yeah. And you will get ad-free versions of the show.
Patreon.netrocks.com.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, you hinted about a hybrid mode beyond Blazor or MAUI for all the things?
Yeah, so we, one of our engineers, Alon Lipton, if you've never had him on the show, you should probably get him on the show. He's amazing. He's been at Microsoft forever.
Yeah. I chat with him on a regular basis, so I sometimes forget we should probably put him on the show.
Put him on the show. He's awesome.
Yeah, he's really bright.
An amazing engineer. He does all things hybrid.
He's the original driver for MVC back in the day.
Yep.
Too,
He's been all around ASP.NET forever. Yeah. So he has an experiment that I think it's been a while. I think last year at MVP Summit, we kind of wanted to get more feedback about it. So it's been an experiment for over a year now.
Yep.
It's a NuGet package. It's called MAUI Hybrid WebView. And we have customers using it today. And so what we've gotten enough feedback where we really think that it's time to bring it in to the MAUI repository and get it as a control in MAUI itself.
This also speaks to a very cool thing. It's in Elion's repository right now, right? So this is Elion's experiment. I think other people have contributed to it.
And we, a lot of people have contributed, created pull requests, even some Microsoft employees in other divisions.
And then it becomes a conversation of, should we put this in the product?
Right. Yeah. That's exactly right.
And then, awesome.
And then, we have actual customers, using it. And that's when we're like, okay, now we know like their use cases. We can kind of outline what a minimum viable product would look like.
Right.
Now, if you go into the MAUI repository, you will see hybrid WebView. You'll see Alon's issues he's created. So he has work items and he defines kind of when we're going to get in there, for .NET 9.
So with the hybrid WebView, is it opinionated about which framework you use, or is it just completely open-ended?
Completely open-ended. So
an Angular developer does the same thing that
so you actually have to build your app. You build your JavaScript frame, however you do that, right? Whether it's React or Vue or Angular or just plain old JavaScript.
Vanilla.js.
Whatever you want, right? And you stick that into like the resources raw folder in MAUI so that it'll deploy with it. And then you basically very similar to Blazor, right? Except Blazor has a whole project system for it and everything, right? Where it does this for you, right? But has like dub root for you and all that. So when you, just like the Blazor WebView, you point the hybrid WebView at where the index is or where the start, where your start HTML is. Yeah. And then that's it. It takes off from there. So
that seems like a no-brainer, especially if you already have an app that's built.
Right. Exactly.
Oh, yeah. You're talking about wrapping existing software if you want, just to give you all those options.
Exactly.
Right?
And it's all like
typical Elion.
It's all static. This is like all client side. I mean, obviously you can make calls to the server and that kind of thing if you need to, but the whole idea is just to like, if you have existing UI in another framework, you can render that through MAUI too.
Don't have to rebuild it or anything, just render it through.
Right.
Good feature. Well done.
Yeah, well done.
So we in a .NET 9 time frame maybe?
Yeah, so I make, now I got to go home and tell Alon that I told the whole world about this and he better get it in.
Well, you're committed now. The reality is if you want to use it, you can. It's sitting on GitHub.
Yeah, right. If we don't make it for some reason, there's still a NuGet package available that you can use, right?
Yeah. I can't imagine why you wouldn't, but things happen too, right?
Things happen.
The world is a strange place.
The solution template is in. I saw the pull request. It is in .NET 9 Preview 5, which we'll release next month.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So are there other new things in MAUI we should be thinking about?
Yeah, so what we're really focused this year on Xamarin migration, right? So Xamarin reached end of life. The SDKs are out of support as of May 1st. And so we've been laser focused on helping our existing Xamarin user base migrate forward. Okay. So actually I talked to a few folks at the conference today and asked how everything's going. We have an email. If you're struggling right now, it's maui-upgrades@microsoft.com. We're on the other end listening and trying to help. It's really important that people migrate because not only is the SDKs out of support now, we're not servicing them anymore. The tools are still in Visual Studio. They're marked as legacy and you can still install them if you have to.
Does Copilot know how to do this?
We have an upgrade assistant that will help you get started. Okay. So the upgrade assistant does a lot of things, like not just Xamarin to MAUI migrations, but it does like, .NET Framework to Core and like it does it does different workloads, like, but yeah, there is an upgrade assistant that's a Visual Studio add-in as well as a command line. That will kind of help you walk through the process, but this depends on, how many bindings, third-party bindings you were using that may not be available today and things like that. So it's not going to be like, 15 minutes, kind of thing. You're really going to need to plan a migration depending on how large your app is. And so we've been really focused on making sure that the compatibility is there. Yeah. Like the SDK quality is very important,
Did you work with the third-party tool developers to make sure that the interfaces were as close as possible?
It's like we don't want to maintain all these bindings anymore as the MAUI team. We just can't do it. Xamarin, the company, could, but we just don't have that kind of, bandwidth, to be honest. And we're looking at different, binding, different style of bindings. David Ortnell probably would talk your ear off about what they're thinking about that. But the other option is this hybrid WebView. I've seen some customers decide, hey, we don't have a .NET bindings for, this library that we were using, and we're just going to use the JavaScript version of this. But so that's what we're really focused on. The stores will stop accepting Xamarin submissions. I think Apple probably in a year, and we might be able to give you a little more, Google might give you a little more time than that. But, you really need to be focusing on it this year. So that's what we've been trying to really do. So as a broader team, and especially on the SDK side, we've been focusing a lot on iOS and Android. Okay. So because of the Xamarin folks.
Just to get the Xamarin stuff retired once and for all.
Exactly. Right. I'm still very, I'm still looking very heavily at desktop scenarios, by the way, though, because from the Blazor hybrid side, we see a lot of desktop.
People want a contemporary desktop
solution.
And,
we work with our partners in Windows and the WinUI team, and, the partnership is still there, and they're still committed to WinUI.
WinUI is part of MAUI, but there was an announcement this week about WinUI and WPF.
Yeah, and they're also investing in WPF as well.
So tell me more. I knew WinUI was,
WinUI 3 is really their,
kind of thing.
That's where all new modern native Windows apps are.
WinUI 3.
WinUI 3, correct.
So what's the deal with WPF?
So WPF, there's just a lot of customers have WPF, right? Yeah. And they want a modern look and feel, and they want some of those modern, UI concepts that WinUI 3 has too. And so because the Windows, I'm not going to speak on behalf of Windows, but I know this part of the story. They are investing in both of those stacks. Okay. I'm in developer division, and I don't like to talk about Microsoft as all these divisions, but it is kind of helpful sometimes to realize hey, we rely on teams across Microsoft. And actually when it comes to hybrid, it's even more because the WebView team is Edge, right? So that's, another team that we rely on. So all of these pieces work together. Yeah. But from the MAUI team's perspective, we really are trying to help our Xamarin customers be successful moving to MAUI. It's really important. And we've seen so much growth in MAUI. It's been really exciting to see since .NET 8 release. There's, 160% more apps in the App Store at this point that are MAUI based. And, depending on, where you're coming from, if you're brand new or you're coming from Xamarin, we're seeing more success with our customers now. So I think we're in a much better place than we were a year ago.
Well, we have a .NET Rocks MAUI Blazor hybrid app out in the app stores.
Cool.
But it needs to be updated. Okay. So that's on me. I haven't updated it. Since I did a whole bunch of bug fixes and things. Okay. So.
Well, and the announcement this week was really about the WinUI and WPF are both first-class citizens in Windows.
Right.
And the main thing they said the thing that I always focus on, which is what is Microsoft using to build Windows apps? And that's WinUI 3 primarily.
Correct.
Right? So those are the way things are going to be updated. But they did make a specific point about WPF getting updates.
Right.
To be able to make Win 11 looking apps. Because Win 11 has an aesthetic.
Yeah,
correct.
And I just feel like, WPF hasn't had a lot of love in a while.
We also have investments in WinForms too, by the way. That's a developer division side. That's open source. And, Mary and Klaus, I don't know if you've ever talked to Klaus on the show. He's awesome.
So getting back to this Windows thing, I just want to make sure everybody who's listening knows that if you can build a MAUI app that targets WinUI, but you can also just build a WPF and use Blazor in it.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yes, you can. You're not building a cross-platform applications anymore. Maybe web and Windows only, right? But yes, that is absolutely true. And actually, you can do it in WinForms as well.
Yep. In fact, I did a demo here with Don Weebier from DevExpress using a Windows Forms app, having Windows Forms UI, and then adding Blazor UI.
Yeah, I watched that. It was cool.
Having them talk together.
Yep. It was cool.
Neat.
It's all WebView at the end of the day. It's the same. It's on Windows. It's WebView too. So that is the Edge team that builds that. Right.
Yeah, I'll include a link to the building with WinUI 3 in .NET, just because I think most people just think of it as a C++ library, right? They don't really know that it's available in the .NET. Much less you could tie it in through MAUI as well. But
are there any limitations doing WinUI with MAUI as opposed to doing WinUI directly? And by directly, I mean not with MAUI.
Nice.
So the XAML flavor is different, the MAUI, kind of, more abstracts things across, standardizes it across. So it's I am not, like we started, I am not a XAML developer, so I'm going to say, I don't know. Maybe.
Fair enough.
Yeah, it's fair.
Anything else we should know? Being here at Build.
I know. It's just so awesome to see you guys.
Good to hang out, yeah.
You too.
It really is. Like, I feel like, my career has come full circle, I think. I have never been a feature PM, so this was like my last, horizon. This was like the last challenge in my life,
We were all very happy when you led marketing for .NET.
Yeah,
those were good
loved
years
it.
for me.
Yeah, I loved it. It was fun. But to be honest with you, I'm a computer science major. I've been a programmer. I started Microsoft when I was in my 30s. I was already in the industry doing software, building software. And, I came to the team because I was an MVP. I came to the team as community manager and, developer advocate basically is what I was, right?
Before it was a term.
But we literally went open source 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
The year I got married.
It was when we were open sourcing .NET.
Yeah, and that was like, I don't need to do this community management thing anymore because social engineering just changed, we were like zero distance to the customers now.
Yeah.
And so when I joined marketing, it made sense. But I remember telling myself when I was younger, because my sister was in marketing, and I was like, man, if I ended up in marketing, kill me. And I ended up in marketing. So I was like, what?
I also think you've had a very rounded career too, because you've been over there, you've been in IC, and now you're PM. You've done all the roles.
So product management was this last challenge for me. Like I remember when I joined Microsoft, I'm like, I don't think I could do this.
Lead a team.
And I'm not a manager of people, but product management is just a constant challenge. You have to be on top of what your competitors are doing. You have to be on top of what your customers are asking for. You have to be on top of what your engineers are able to do. How you prioritize. The scheduling part is but it's fun because I'm so close to the engineering now, and I get to write code every day.
That's
and I get, it's just, I get to test things and I get to look at the end to end. What's funny is, Microsoft isn't a cloud company. They're an AI company now, right? We are, right?
Yeah.
And, I'm on the client, right? It feels like maybe we have a little extra, I don't know, startup kind of attitude to ourselves. You know what I mean? Because, we're kind of the client is so important to the user experience on the other end, and so it is part of the whole end to end of an application.
But we're glad that you were marketing for .NET rather than somebody who didn't understand it.
Right. And that's the thing. That's kind of, I brought the technical aspect of it. I learned a lot about storytelling in marketing. And when you're a product manager, you're just doing storytelling at kind of your level,
focused on your
focused,
thing.
Yeah, focused. So I do I help the rest of the team do some of that too. So I love being on the .NET team. I love being around .NET. You guys know that. I've been like that forever. So
it's like Foxborough, only different.
Foxborough taught me how to love a community, though.
So it was an amazing community.
Yeah.
And an amazing product for its time, too.
Certainly.
Let's face it.
Yeah.
And on that note, I guess we'll call it a show. Thank you so much.
Hey,
Great to see you again.
Love you guys.
All right, you too. And we'll talk to you next time on .NET Rocks. .NET Rocks is brought to you by Franklin's Net and produced by Plop Studios, a full-service audio, video, and post-production facility located physically in New London, Connecticut, and of course in the cloud. Online at pwop.com. Visit our website at dotnetrocks.com for RSS feeds, downloads, mobile apps, comments, and access to the full archives going back to show number 1, recorded in September 2002. And make sure you check out our sponsors. They keep us in business. Now go write some code. See you next time.
Got a transmitter banned by the FCC. Yes, I'm a